Longevity Lifestyle Designers. This is Zach here with secretsoflongevity.com. I'm just drinking green juice here as I get into some of these questions for this week's Q&A on Sunday. First question is from Scott, and he's asking whether the Hippocrates Health Institute, in their program down there, if they recommend the importance of a daily bowel movement and whether they recommend or take part in cleaning out the bowel through whatever means to aid in making that happen. Now yes, they definitely do. I'm not speaking on behalf of them, I'm just going to speak from my experience from being there and understanding their program. And yeah, they definitely recommend enemas once a day, especially if you've been involved in a very toxic lifestyle or a heavily cooked food lifestyle. It's even more important to, if you're going on a 100% raw food diet or even a high raw diet, to be doing that to help the passage of toxins out of the colon walls, out of the digestive tract, to prevent the reuptake of all these toxins that are moving out of the sewage system, which is the bowel of the body, and to make that a regular daily habit. So a lot of people, when they go there, they're going to either have two problems occur. They're going to be having too many bowel movements, so you're probably going to end up, you obviously have a bowel movement if you're doing an enema once a day. You're probably going to have a little bit of one if you're doing the wheatgrass implants, which kind of get things moving and increases peristalsis of the colon. Plus, there's a lot of fiber and roughage in the diet if you're eating too large sprout salads and all the raw food, and even some of the nuts and seeds. It's going to have a lot of bulk in your diet, and that's going to get things moving. So yeah, there's a potential for a lot of time in the bathroom, or the opposite occurs where some people actually become constipated, and then they have to be very diligent with getting the enemas and even going in for colon hydrotherapy. They have a few colon hydrotherapists there that are great to visit. Everyone gets one free one for if they're there for 3 weeks. That's part of the package deal. And yeah, that's definitely an important factor. They don't, from my experience, they don't say anything specific like you need to have 1 or 2 or 3 a day. My thoughts around this is that 1 to 2 bowel movements a day is good. I think 3 is excessive. Some people need to say you need to have bowel movement 20 minutes after every time you eat or something. It's like, really? Who does that? You either have to be eating a diet that's all very easily quick digesting food, or you're just someone that naturally has a very fast digestive system. But some people do have a slower digestive system, and they can't try and fit into this mold of constantly having to go to the bathroom shortly after having eaten something. Now the next question is from Michael Pastor, and he's asking, what are the repercussions of not eating breakfast, or what are my thoughts around breakfast? And basically there's a few ideologies around breakfast and whether it's optimal to eat it, how much you should eat, and when, and whether you should eat it or not. It can be beneficial to go through periods of cleansing without eating breakfast. It's said that your body's detoxing for a 12-hour period between 11 p.m. and 11 a.m. I think that could probably be the same if it was 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. or whatever allotment of time you want to specify. But if it's a 12-hour period that you're fasting, then you can eat food after that 12-hour period. And that sort of breaks your whole 24-hour period into 2 halves. Half where you're asleep / sort of getting ready for the day. The other part is your active day. So that's sort of the yin and yang. If you just focus on eating during that other 12-hour period, then you're optimizing having a break for your body to flush out all these things that are going on. Now, some people also say you need to eat a large breakfast really quickly as soon as you get up. And if that's something that you find works for you and helps you have more energy through the day, that's great, but I would definitely make sure you're not eating too late at night, so that if you're getting up at say 7 and you're eating by 7:30, stop eating by 6, 7 at the latest, and then you're still getting that 12-hour rest of no food. The next question is from Necrowitch on YouTube, aka Laura, and she's asking my advice on optimizing nasal breathing ability. So if I have any ideas on exercises or lifestyle changes that can help open up the passageways in the nasal cavity to enhance oxygenation of the whole body without having to resort to breathing through the mouth. And this is pretty important because mouth breathing over time has been shown to cause actually dental problems, which is kind of strange to think about. But I personally was a heavy mouth breather as a child for whatever reason, and it actually caused me eventually to need braces, whether that was a main factor or probably just a contributing factor. But through everything I've done, I couldn't say there's any one specific thing, but generally at this point in my life, I do breathe through my nose even when I'm sleeping, as far as I know. So the best thing to do in this case is to experiment with a few different things to see what does cause the opening of that area. Sometimes deep relaxation that you can get to in states of meditation, I find, suddenly cause opening up of the sinus cavity. And sinuses go right up around the eyes, and there's certain lymph drainage you can do even on yourself. If you look up online lymph drainage, I'm not going to try and instruct it because it is kind of complicated, but it's very soft touching around the eyes. It's massage, but you're not massaging muscle tissue, you're massaging the lymph, which is just under the skin. You can just basically go around like this, and even just doing this, you'll find all of a sudden you'll have a sudden release, and you'll feel drainage on one side of your face or sinus or nose that is plugged up. And then you also have to address what's causing it to become plugged up, which can be dietary based, any toxins that you're around, if you're around a lot of air pollution. Perhaps your body type and metabolism is completely wrong for the area you're living in. So if you're living in a really damp, moist, and hot or humid area, such as the jungle, you might find you actually do better in a more desert-like environment, or even cooler desert, more mountainous area. So really, that's going to be more long-term choices you have to make, or if you go on vacation somewhere, see if changes do happen in the way you're breathing, and then you're going to know what's optimal for your health for the long term, and you can make your lifestyle choices for that based on those experiences. In terms of diet, again, this I think can really vary on what your body needs and what it does well with. Some people really emphasize eliminating all fat from your diet, and that's going to cause perfect breathing through the nostrils, and I personally find that's not true. Some people, such as myself, find that a really fruit-heavy diet or a carbohydrate-heavy diet is going to cause a lot of buildup of moisture in the body, which actually builds up mucus. And that's well known in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine that these foods, which are very dampening to the system, actually increase mucus formation, despite some of these totalitarian thoughts that say, eat this way and it eliminates mucus for everyone, when that's just not the case. I personally eat a medium fat diet, so not too high, not too low, and that's where it works for me. Whereas you do see some people eating a high fat diet that do have mucus problems in their nose and throat, in which case they'd have to bring it down, but there might be some people where that works for them. So playing around with that ratio of fat, seeing if you need more fat, less fat, or low fat, and also looking at what types of fats you're getting and what that's doing for your nasal passage and sinuses. For really quick relief, what I've noticed on a few occasions that I've taken high doses of systemic enzymes, you can find there's a sudden dissolving of mucus in various places in your body, and that often will affect the upper sinuses and nasal passages. So even just a few capsules of a systemic enzyme, I've taken them on an empty stomach, and all of a sudden, maybe 10 minutes later, I'll start to feel like, almost like that feeling that something's sliding down the back of your throat, and you suddenly feel more clear and more open around your sinuses, which really is connected to the third eye, and you can feel like very openness around the forehead area, which is quite exhilarating. So if you're interested in trying out systemic enzymes, I'd recommend the brand below, which you can just click the drop-down menu, you can click through and get some of those, and you can take them by a teaspoon. There's really no upper dose of systemic enzymes, but if you've never taken them before, obviously start low and build up, and they're ideally taken on an empty stomach, either at the end of the day or first thing in the morning. And one practical thing I could recommend is a certain type of breathing exercise. Look up and study alternate nostril breathing from pranayama in the yogic traditions, or any breathing exercise for that matter, is going to relax the body, stimulate the air passageways through the nostrils, and it can open these areas up to function better. And it's really something you need to continue on a daily basis and make a habit of, and a practice of if you're going to look at and experience the long-term results. The next question is from Sandpiper22, and he's asking about goat milk and whether it contains casein. And I'm not sure what your feelings around casein are, but yes, it does contain casein. I'm not sure of the exact amount. I believe every mammal that produces milk, it produces some percentage of its milk as casein. Even humans produce a very small percentage of the milk protein as casein. And but the difference is that Holstein cows have a genetic mutation where they produce what's called A1 casein, and this is the casein that is been shown to cause problems such as diabetes, heart disease, even things like autism and even schizophrenia. So there's some sort of inability for our bodies to digest that casein, which causes the problems that I just mentioned. And this is also apparent in the China study, where they use its isolated casein to look at the effects of high casein diets on rats. They didn't specify the type of casein they were using or whether there's different effects from the two types, but research from Australia shows us that there's a very big difference in that an A2 casein, which is in virtually all other mammals that don't have this mutated form, including Guernsey and Jersey cows, which you could consider like an heirloom variety of cow. They're not as hybridized as the Holstein, which is the big black and white mainstream cows that actually produce a lot more milk than these smaller, more natural cows. And so a lot of the health problems that are associated with milk are because of the type of casein, that A1 casein. And even in some cases, milk allergies can be traced to A1 casein, which is, again, the Holstein variety, which is like 90% or even more of the dairy consumed in the mass market. So yeah, goat milk is much more easily digestible for the reason that it's less hybridized and that it probably has less casein, which is a pretty complex protein, and it has some other types in there, and it's easier to digest the fats, and it's higher in minerals and alkalinity and all these other things. You just have to think about it. A goat is an animal that eats a lot more varied foods. It eats weeds, bark, various grasses, whereas a cow that's being fed the proper food is just eating grass, and that's what they're designed to eat. So the less varied diet means that the quality of the milk is really based on the quality of the grass, whereas if animals eating a lot more wild food, it's going to be getting a lot larger variety of minerals and vitamins, which are going to affect the quality of the milk. And the final question is from the new subscriber Max, who's asking about red reishi and cordyceps and whether you can take them in combination, and whether there's any discrepancies with one's constitution and ways you're taking them. And really they're not, because these are very, very mild tonic herbs. They're not going to have any influence on each other in terms of causing negative problems. So you can take them in any dosage unless you find yourself having negative effects from taking too high a dosage, such as that upset stomach or diarrhea. But in that case, just lower it. But there's not going to be negative effects in the sense of headache. But there shouldn't be negative effects in the sense of dangerous side effects. So yeah, they can be paired together. In fact, it's really good to pair different medicinal mushrooms together because they have these immunomodulating effects, and you're going to be just working on a wider range of the immune system. So in the case you're talking about having problems sleeping deeply at night, if you wanted to emphasize one of the mushrooms over the other, I'd say cordyceps because it has a more Jing tonifying quality to it, a yin Jing. But it also depends on what the source of your lack of ability to sleep is. If there's emotional distress in your life, the reishi, which has a more spiritual and emotionally balancing quality to it, might help that more so. So combining them in equal amounts is probably your best bet, unless you specifically know the cause for your lack of ability to sleep deeply. With that being said, anyone out there wishing to sample reishi or cordyceps, I would recommend the link below in the drop-down menu. And in that link you can find the extracts that I personally use in my elixirs and on a daily basis, which I've found very effective. And that's one way to take them, is just an elixir, because you're combining them with other nutrients and getting a whole wide range of things happening in your body. And with that, I'm going to say, have a great week. Ask more questions through the week, and I'll answer them next week's Q&A. And embrace life without limits.